The explosions lit up the dark space like deadly fireworks. Captain Jake Morrison watched from his hospital bed as the news reports showed the Battle of New Geneva. Human ships burned and broke apart while alien vessels moved through them like sharks through a school of fish. The war was going badly, very badly. "Turn it off," Jake said to the nurse. His left arm was still in a cast from when his last ship had been destroyed 3 months ago. Half his crew had died that day. The other half were scattered across different hospitals and medical centers throughout human space. The nurse shook her head. "The doctors want all patients to stay informed about the war situation." She was young, maybe 25, with tired eyes that had seen too many wounded soldiers come through these doors. On the screen, Admiral Frank Collins stood behind a podium. His uniform was crisp, but his face looked like he had aged 10 years in the past 6 months. "The Zephyrian Empire has taken New Geneva," he announced. "We estimate civilian casualties at over 2 million. Our fleet suffered significant losses, but we managed to evacuate most of our ground forces." Jake knew what that meant. They had run away. Again. The Zephyrians had better ships, better weapons, and better technology. Every time humans tried to fight them directly, they lost. The aliens had energy shields that made their ships almost impossible to damage. Their weapons could punch through human armor like it was made of paper. Worst of all, they could talk to each other instantly across vast distances, which meant their fleets always worked together perfectly. "Captain Morrison?" A new voice made Jake look toward the door. A young officer stood there wearing the dark blue uniform of Fleet Intelligence. She had short black hair and serious brown eyes. "I'm Lieutenant Amy Chen. I have orders for you." Jake sat up in bed. "Orders? I'm on medical leave for another month." "Not anymore, sir." She handed him a data pad. The words on the screen made his heart race. "You're being given command of the USS Blackstar. You ship out in 6 hours." "The Blackstar?" Jake had never heard of that ship. "What class is she?" Lieutenant Chen looked around the room, then moved closer to his bed. "That's classified, sir, but I can tell you this much. She's our best hope of turning this war around." Jake read through the orders quickly. Most of it was standard transfer paperwork, but some sections were marked with security levels he had never seen before. "This says I'm supposed to report to Admiral Collins personally for my briefing." "Yes, sir. A transport is waiting to take you to Fleet Command." Chen paused. "Sir, I should warn you. This isn't a normal assignment. The Blackstar is different from any ship in our fleet." "Different how?" "You'll find out soon enough." Chen turned to leave, then stopped. "Captain Morrison, good luck. We're all counting on you." After she left, Jake stared at the datapad. The USS Blackstar. He had served on destroyers, cruisers, and battleships. He had fought the Zephyrians for 3 years and watched them destroy everything he cared about. His home colony of Preston's World had been one of the first to fall. His brother had died in that attack. Now they were giving him a ship he had never heard of and telling him it was humanity's best hope. 2 hours later, Jake stood in Admiral Collins's office. The Admiral looked even worse in person than he had on the news reports. His gray hair was thin, and his hands shook slightly when he poured coffee. "Jake, thank you for coming so quickly." Collins gestured to a chair. "I know you're supposed to be recovering, but we don't have time." "What's the situation, sir?" Collins activated a holographic display that showed the current state of human space. Red markers showed Zephyrian-controlled systems. Blue markers showed human systems. There was a lot more red than blue. "We've lost 17 colony worlds in the past 8 months, Collins said. "Our fleet strength is down to 30% of what we had when the war started. The Zephyrians are preparing for a final push toward Earth itself." Jake studied the display. "How long do we have?" "Maybe 6 months, maybe less." Collins touched a control, and the display changed to show technical specifications for a ship. "This is why I called you here, the USS Blackstar." Jake stared at the specifications. The ship was huge, nearly twice the size of a normal battleship. Its weapons loadout was unlike anything he had ever seen. "Sir, These energy readings can't be right. No ship can generate this much power. The Blackstar can. Collins sat down heavily. Jake, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. For the past 2 years, we've been working on a special project. We've been studying destroyed Zephyrian technology, trying to understand how their systems work. Reverse engineering? Among other things. Collins pulled up another display. We've built weapons that can punch through their shields. We've developed armor that can resist their energy beams. And we've created something else. Something that might end this war. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of something? Weapons that violate the interstellar warfare convention. Weapons that can destroy entire fleets. Weapons that can crack planets. Collins met Jake's eyes. The kind of weapons that decent people don't use unless they have no other choice. And you think we have no other choice? Jake, they're going to wipe us out. Every human colony, every human ship, every human being. The Zephyrians don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate, they conquer and they kill. Collins stood up and walked to the window. Outside, construction ships were building new defenses around Earth. I'm giving you the Blackstar because you're the best combat commander we have left. But more than that, I'm giving it to you because I trust you to make the right decisions when the time comes. Jake looked at the ship specifications again. Sir, where is this ship now? Dock 7 at Luna Station. Your crew is already assembling. Most of them are survivors from ships that were destroyed in recent battles. They know what we're fighting for. Collins handed Jake another data pad. Your executive officer is Commander Lisa Park. She was tactical officer on the USS Denver when it was destroyed at the Battle of Kepler Station. Your chief engineer is Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes. He helped design some of the Blackstar's systems. What about Dr. Elena Vasquez? Collins raised an eyebrow. You know about her? Her name is on the crew list. I've never heard of her. Dr. Vasquez is the head of our weapons research program. She'll be traveling with you to oversee the new systems. Collins walked back to his desk. Jake, I want you to understand something. The Blackstar isn't just a ship, it's a weapon. Maybe the most powerful weapon ever built by human hands. Use it wisely. Jake stood up and saluted. I understand, sir. I hope you do. Collins returned the salute. Because once you take that ship into combat, there might be no going back. The weapons on the Blackstar will change the nature of this war. They might change the nature of humanity itself. 3 hours later, Jake stood in the docking bay at Luna Station, looking up at the USS Blackstar. The ship was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Its hull was darker than normal, almost black, with lines that seemed to flow like water. Energy conduits glowed beneath its armor plating. The weapon ports were larger than anything Jake had seen on a human ship. Impressive, isn't she? A woman's voice made him turn around. She was tall with dark hair pulled back in a military style. Her uniform showed the rank of commander. I'm Lisa Park, your new XO. Jake shook her hand. Captain Morrison, what do you think of our new ship? Lisa looked up at the Blackstar. I think she's going to win us this war, sir. Or she's going to. Damn us all trying. As they walked toward the boarding ramp, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that both things might be true. The bridge of the USS Blackstar was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The walls curved in smooth lines, and displays floated in the air without any visible supports. The captain's chair sat in the center, surrounded by control stations that seemed to respond to touch and thought at the same time. The ship's computer uses a neural interface system, Commander Lisa Park explained as she showed Jake around. It can read your intentions and respond faster than manual controls. Jake touched one of the floating displays. Information flowed across it, showing ship status, crew locations, and weapon readiness. This technology is decades ahead of anything else in our fleet. Most of it came from studying Zephyrian wrecks, said a new voice. Jake turned to see a man in engineering coveralls walking onto the bridge. He was young, maybe 30, with grease on his hands and excitement in his eyes. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes, sir. Chief Engineer. Jake shook his hand. Tell me about our engines, Commander. Ryan's face lit up. Sir, you're going to love this. We've got quantum fusion reactors that produce 3 times the power of normal engines. Our maximum speed is faster than anything the Zephyrians have ever seen. Plus, we've got something called adaptive armor. Adaptive armor? The hull can change its structure based on what's hitting it. Energy weapons, kinetic rounds, plasma bursts. The armor learns and adapts. Ryan pulled up a technical display. In theory, the longer we fight, the harder we become to kill. Lisa looked concerned. In theory? Well, we haven't tested it in real combat yet. Ryan's smile faded slightly. Most of our systems are still experimental. Jake studied the weapons display. The Blackstar carried plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, and something called pulse bombs. But there were other weapons listed that showed only question marks where their specifications should be. What are these classified weapons? You'll need to talk to Dr. Vasquez about those, Lisa said. She's in the weapons lab on Deck 7. The weapons lab looked more like a research facility than part of a warship. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in front of a massive sealed chamber, making notes on a data pad. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Captain Morrison, she said without looking up, I've been expecting you. Doctor, I need to know what weapons this ship is carrying. Dr. Vasquez finally turned to face him. The question isn't what weapons we're carrying, Captain. The question is whether you're prepared to use them. She led him to the sealed chamber. Through the thick window, Jake could see 3 torpedo-shaped objects. They were larger than normal torpedoes and seemed to glow with their own light. Planet killers, Dr. Vasquez said simply. Each one contains enough compressed exotic matter to create a temporary black hole. The gravitational field collapses after about 30 seconds, but in that time, it can consume everything within a 5-kilometer radius. Jake stared at the weapons. Everything? Ships, stations, asteroids, small moons. Anything that gets caught in the field is pulled apart at the molecular level. Dr. Vasquez made more notes. We built them by studying the remains of Zephyrian superweapons. We think this is how they destroyed our colonies so completely. Have they been tested? Only in computer simulations. The power requirements are enormous and the risks are significant. She looked at Jake seriously. Captain, these weapons could end the war in a single battle, but they could also tear holes in space-time itself. We're not entirely sure what the long-term effects might be. Jake left the weapons lab with a heavy feeling in his stomach. The Blackstar wasn't just a ship. It was a weapon of mass destruction that made nuclear bombs look like firecrackers. 2 days later, they received their first mission. Admiral Collins appeared on the main screen looking even more tired than before. Captain Morrison, we've lost contact with Haven Point Colony. Long-range sensors show Zephyrian ships in the system. Your orders are to investigate, rescue any survivors, and gather intelligence on enemy fleet movements. Jake nodded. Understood, sir. When do we depart? Immediately. And Jake? Collins paused. This mission will be your first real test. The crew needs to see what the Blackstar can do, but be careful, we can't afford to lose this ship. The jump to Haven Point took 6 hours. When they dropped out of hyperspace, the tactical displays immediately lit up with warning signals. 3 Zephyrian destroyers, Lisa reported from her station. They're in orbit around Haven Point. The colony is still there, but I'm reading massive damage to the surface installations. Jake studied the enemy ships. Zephyrian vessels looked like giant insects made of metal and energy. Their hulls were covered in the same energy shields that had made them nearly invincible for 3 years. Captain, Ryan's voice came from engineering. All systems are ready. The new weapons are charged and standing by. Any sign of survivors on the planet? I'm picking up faint life signs in the underground shelters, Lisa said. Maybe a few thousand people. Jake made his decision. Red alert, all hands to battle stations. He opened a ship-wide communication channel. This is the captain. We're about to engage Zephyrian forces for the first time. Our job is to rescue the people on that planet and show the enemy that humanity isn't finished yet. The Zephyrian ships moved to intercept them. Jake watched as energy beams lanced out from the enemy vessels. On any other human ship, those beams would have cut through the hull like a knife through paper. But the Blackstar was different. The energy beam struck the adaptive armor and seemed to spread out across the hull like water. The ship barely shook. "Armor is holding," Ryan reported, and Jake could hear the amazement in his voice. "Energy absorption is at 92%. The hull is actually getting stronger." "Target the lead destroyer," Jake ordered. "Fire quantum torpedoes." The torpedoes streaked across space faster than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. They struck the enemy ship's shields and kept going. The shields that had protected Zephyrian ships for years simply collapsed. The destroyer exploded in a ball of fire and debris. The bridge crew cheered, but Jake remained focused. "Target the second ship, fire plasma cannons." The plasma beams punched through the Zephyrian ship's hull like it was made of tissue paper. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as the ship broke apart. The third destroyer tried to run, but the Blackstar was faster. Jake watched as their torpedoes caught the fleeing ship and destroyed it completely. "All enemy vessels destroyed," Lisa reported. "Total engagement time, 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Jake sat back in his chair. For 3 years, Zephyrian ships had seemed unstoppable. Human fleets had thrown everything they had at those energy shields and accomplished nothing. But the Blackstar had cut through 3 destroyers like they were training targets. "Begin rescue operations," Jake ordered. "Get every survivor off that planet." It took 8 hours to evacuate Haven Point. They rescued nearly 3,000 people, loading them into the Blackstar's expanded cargo bays. Jake walked through the refugee areas, seeing families who had lost everything but were grateful to be alive. "Thank you, Captain," an older man said, shaking Jake's hand. "We thought we were going to die down there." "You're safe now," Jake replied. But even as he said it, he wondered if anywhere in human space was truly safe anymore. Dr. Vasquez found him later in his ready room, staring out at the stars. "The crew is excited about our victory," she said, sitting down across from his desk. "They should be. It's the first real victory humanity has had in months. But you're worried." Jake nodded. "Those Zephyrian ships weren't expecting us. They didn't know what we were capable of. Next time will be different. Next time we'll be ready too." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. "Captain, the weapons we used today were just the beginning. The quantum torpedoes and plasma cannons are our conventional weapons. The real power of this ship hasn't been tested yet. The planet killers, among other things. We have weapon systems that could end this war in a single battle. The question is whether we'll have the courage to use them when the time comes." Jake looked out at the rescued families in the cargo bay. Children played between the supply crates while their parents tried to figure out what came next. These people had been saved because the Blackstar had power that no human ship had ever possessed before. But Dr. Vasquez was right. The weapons they had used today were nothing compared to what the ship could really do. And somewhere out there, the Zephyrian Empire was learning that humanity had developed new technology. They would be coming with everything they had. "Set course for Luna Station," Jake ordered. "It's time to report our success to Admiral Collins." As the Blackstar jumped into hyperspace, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that their first victory was also the beginning of something much more dangerous. They had crossed a line today. They had used alien technology to destroy alien ships, and there might be no going back. The war was about to change, and Jake wasn't sure if humanity was ready for what came next. The alarm woke Jake from a deep sleep. He rolled out of his bunk and grabbed his uniform as the ship's emergency lights flashed red. The Blackstar had been patrolling the outer colonies for 2 weeks, hunting Zephyrian supply convoys and avoiding their main fleets. "Captain, to the bridge." Lisa's voice came over the communication system. She sounded worried. Jake arrived on the bridge to find his crew staring at the tactical display. 5 Zephyrian ships were closing in on their position, but these weren't the normal destroyers they had been fighting. These ships were sleeker, faster, and covered in weapons. "They found us," Lisa said grimly. "Long-range sensors show these are Shadowfang squadron ships, elite hunters." Jake had heard of the Shadowfangs. They were the Zephyrian Empire's best pilots sent to deal with threats that normal ships couldn't handle. Each pilot was enhanced with cybernetic implants that let them react faster than any normal being could. "How did they track us?" Jake asked. "Unknown, sir. We've been running silent for the past 6 hours. Lisa pulled up the enemy formation. They're moving to surround us, classic hunter pattern. Ryan's voice came from engineering. Captain, I'm reading some strange energy signatures from those ships. They're using technology I've never seen before. Jake studied the approaching vessels. Each one was about the size of a human cruiser, but they moved with the grace and speed of fighters. Their hulls seemed to shift and change color as he watched. Adaptive camouflage, Dr. Vasquez said as she entered the bridge. They're using our own technology against us. Our technology. Remember the destroyed ships from our first battle? The Zephyrians have been studying the wreckage. They've learned how to copy some of our systems. She looked at the display with professional interest. Fascinating. They work much faster than we do. The lead Shadowfang ship opened a communication channel. The image that appeared on screen made several crew members step back in shock. The Zephyrian commander looked like a nightmare made real. His skin was gray metal fused with living tissue. Glowing red eyes stared out from a face that was more machine than organic. Human vessel. The creature spoke in perfect English. I am War Commander Thexkar of the Shadowfang Squadron. You have been marked for termination. Surrender your ship and we will make your deaths quick. Jake stepped forward. This is Captain Morrison of the USS Blackstar. We don't surrender. Thexkar made a sound that might have been laughter. The famous human superweapon. We have been hunting you for days, studying your patterns, learning your weaknesses. Today, your technological advantage ends. The transmission cut off and immediately the Shadowfang ships began their attack. But instead of the direct assault Jake expected, they moved in complex patterns around the Blackstar. Energy beams lanced out from multiple directions, forcing the ship to constantly maneuver. They're not trying to destroy us, Lisa realized. They're testing our defenses. Jake watched as the enemy ships danced around them like wolves circling prey. Every few seconds, one would dart in close enough to fire a few shots, then pull back before the Blackstar could return fire effectively. Captain, our adaptive armor is having trouble keeping up, Ryan reported. They're hitting us with different types of energy each time. The armor can't adapt fast enough. One of the Shadowfang ships suddenly accelerated directly at them. Jake expected it to fire and pull away, but instead it kept coming. Ramming speed, Lisa shouted. Evasive maneuvers. The Blackstar turned hard to port, but the enemy ship adjusted its course to match. At the last second, it fired a spread of strange purple energy bolts that struck the Blackstar's hull. The ship shuddered, and several bridge stations sparked and went dark. What was that? Jake demanded. Some kind of disruption weapon. Ryan's voice was strained. It's interfering with our neural interface systems. I'm losing control of several decks. The Shadowfang ships pressed their advantage, moving in closer and firing more disruption bolts. With each hit, the Blackstar became slower and less responsive. Sir, Lisa said urgently, if we don't do something soon, they're going to disable us completely. Jake made a hard decision. Dr. Vasquez, prepare one of the planet killers. The doctor looked shocked. Captain, using that weapon in open space is extremely dangerous. The gravitational effects could damage our own ship. We don't have a choice. Jake turned to the weapons station. Target the center of their formation. Minimum yield. Sir, there's no such thing as minimum yield with those weapons. Dr. Vasquez protested. Then we'll have to hope we're far enough away. Jake opened the ship-wide communication system. All hands, brace for gravitational shockwave. Emergency power to structural integrity fields. The planet killer torpedo launched from the Blackstar like a small star. The Shadowfang ships immediately recognized the threat and scattered, but they weren't fast enough. The torpedo reached the center of their formation and detonated. Space itself seemed to twist and bend as a temporary black hole formed. The gravitational field reached out like invisible hands, grabbing everything within 5 kilometers. 2 of the Shadowfang ships were caught immediately. Jake watched in horrified fascination as the sleek vessels were stretched and compressed, their hulls flowing like liquid metal before disappearing into the gravitational anomaly. The other 3 ships tried to escape, but the gravitational field was pulling them back. Their engines screamed at maximum power, fighting against forces that wanted to tear them apart. One ship made it to safety. The other two were pulled back and consumed by the black hole. 30 seconds after detonation, the gravitational field collapsed. Where 5 enemy ships had been, there was now only empty space and a few scattered pieces of debris. The bridge was silent for several moments. Finally, Lisa spoke in a whisper. "My God, what have we done?" Jake stared at the empty space where the Shadowfang ships had been. Each of those vessels had carried a crew of perhaps 50 beings. In 30 seconds, he had killed over 200 enemies with a single weapon. "Captain," Ryan's voice was shaky. "We've got problems. The gravitational shockwave damaged several of our systems. We're losing power to the port engine nacelle. How bad is it?" "Bad enough that we need to get to a repair facility soon." "And, sir, that black hole didn't just destroy the enemy ships. It also consumed 3 asteroids and a small ice moon that were in the area." Jake felt sick. They had used a weapon that destroyed everything around it, not just their enemies. If there had been any colonies or stations in the area, they would have been wiped out too. "Set course for the nearest human outpost," Jake ordered. "Best possible speed." As the Blackstar limped away from the battle site, Jake couldn't stop thinking about what they had done. The planet killer had worked exactly as designed. It had saved their lives and destroyed their enemies. But it had also shown him just how terrible their new weapons really were. Dr. Vasquez found him in his ready room an hour later. She looked as shaken as he felt. "The crew is talking," she said quietly. "Some of them are calling it a great victory. Others are calling it mass murder." "What do you call it?" "I call it necessary." She sat down across from his desk. "Captain, we're fighting for the survival of our entire species. The Zephyrians have shown no mercy to our colonies. They've killed billions of humans without hesitation. That doesn't make us right. No, but it makes us alive." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. "Jake, I've seen the intelligence reports. The Zephyrians are massing their entire fleet for an assault on Earth. They have over 300 ships. Our entire remaining fleet has maybe 50 vessels." Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, War Commander Thexkar had escaped in the last Shadowfang ship. He would report back to his commanders about the weapon that had destroyed his squadron. The Zephyrians would know that humanity now possessed weapons that could eliminate entire fleets in seconds. "They'll be more careful now," Jake said. "Yes, they will. But they'll also be more desperate. And desperate enemies do terrible things." Dr. Vasquez stood up. "Captain, we have 2 more planet killers in storage. When the Zephyrians come for Earth, we're going to need them." That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept seeing the Shadowfang ships being pulled into the black hole, their hulls stretching and breaking as they were consumed. He had always known that war was about killing the enemy. But this felt different. This felt like something that would change him forever. Lisa knocked on his door around midnight. She looked as troubled as he felt. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. "No. Keep thinking about those ships." "The crew is divided," Lisa said. "Half of them think we're heroes for destroying the Shadowfangs. The other half think we've become monsters." Jake sighed. "What do you think?" "I think we did what we had to do to survive. But I also think we crossed a line today. Once you use weapons like that, it becomes easier to use them again." She was right, and Jake knew it. The planet killer had solved their immediate problem, but it had also changed them. They now had the power to destroy fleets, planets, maybe entire star systems. The question was whether they could control that power, or whether it would control them. "Get some rest, Lisa. Tomorrow we start planning for the real war." As his executive officer left, Jake stared out at the stars and wondered if humanity would still be human when this war was over. Admiral Collins stood before the main screen in the Blackstar's briefing room, his face grim. Behind him, star charts showed the current positions of human and Zephyrian fleets. The red markers outnumbered the blue ones by more than 6-1. "The situation has changed," Collins said without preamble. "Intelligence reports indicate the Zephyrians are preparing for their final assault on Earth. They've pulled ships from every conquered system to build the largest fleet in their history." Jake studied the tactical display. "How many ships are we talking about, sir?" "Over 400 vessels, including their new super dreadnoughts. They'll reach Earth in less than 3 weeks." Collins touched a control. and the display changed to show intercepted Zephyrian communications. But that's not the worst part. They've started executing civilian populations on the worlds they've conquered. The room fell silent. Lisa was the first to speak. Executing civilians? Why? Revenge for the destruction of the Shadowfang Squadron. They're calling it punishment for humanity's use of forbidden weapons. Collins looked directly at Jake. Captain Morrison, your orders are to take the offensive. Strike their staging areas, destroy their supply lines, and force them to abandon their assault on Earth. Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. Admiral, that will require the use of our most advanced weapons, the planet killers. I understand the implications, Doctor, but we're fighting for the survival of our species. There are no forbidden weapons when facing extinction. Jake felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Sir, those weapons will cause massive collateral damage. Entire star systems could be affected. The Zephyrians made their choice when they started executing prisoners. Collins replied sharply. Now we make ours. You have full authorization to use whatever force is necessary. After the Admiral's transmission ended, the senior staff remained. In the briefing room, the silence stretched uncomfortably as everyone processed their new orders. We're talking about genocide, Lisa said finally. If we use the planet killers on their staging areas, we'll be destroying entire Zephyrian colonies. Ryan nodded grimly. The gravitational effects alone could destabilize whole star systems. Planets could be thrown out of orbit. Dr. Vasquez stood up and activated a technical display. I've been analyzing the data from our battle with the Shadowfangs. The planet killer weapon created gravitational distortions that are still affecting local space. We're not just killing our enemies, we're changing the fundamental structure of space-time itself. Jake stared at the readings. How long will these effects last? We don't know. Possibly decades, maybe centuries. Dr. Vasquez highlighted several data points. Captain, these weapons are beyond anything either species should possess. They're not just weapons of war, they're weapons of cosmic destruction. But they work, Jake said quietly. And right now, working is all that matters. Over the next week, the Blackstar began its campaign against Zephyrian military installations. Their first target was a supply depot in the Rigel system. Intelligence indicated it was defended by 20 ships and supplied the entire Zephyrian Third Fleet. The battle was over in minutes. The Blackstar's quantum torpedoes and plasma cannons tore through the defending ships like they were made of paper. The supply depot itself was a massive space station, heavily armored and protected by energy shields. Use a planet killer, Jake ordered. Sir, there are civilian transports in the area, Lisa warned. Zephyrian families being evacuated from the depot. Jake hesitated. Through the view screen, he could see the small ships fleeing from the battle zone. Each one carried hundreds of alien civilians who had done nothing wrong except be born on the wrong side of a war. Captain? Dr. Vasquez waited for his order. Fire, Jake said. The planet killer streaked across space and detonated near the supply depot. The temporary black hole consumed the station, 3 defending ships and 2 civilian transports that hadn't escaped fast enough. When the gravitational field collapsed, nothing remained but scattered debris. The crew celebrated their victory, but Jake felt no joy. He had just killed thousands of innocent beings to destroy a military target. The tactical victory was complete, but the moral cost was staggering. Their next target was a Zephyrian research facility in the Vega system. This time there were no civilian ships in the area, but the facility was located on a moon orbiting a populated planet. The research station has developed new shield technology, Dr. Vasquez explained as they approached the target. If we don't destroy it, they might find a way to defend against our weapons. Jake watched the moon grow larger on the view screen. Long-range sensors showed the research facility was built into the moon's surface, but they also detected massive, underground complexes that might contain civilian populations. Any way to target just the military installations? Jake asked. Ryan shook his head. The facility is too well integrated into the moon's structure. To destroy it completely, we'd have to target the entire moon. That's 100 million Zephyrian civilians, Lisa said softly. Jake stared at the tactical display. 100 million lives. Men, women, children, families who had never fired a shot at humanity. But the research facility was developing technology that could make the Zephyrians immune to their weapons. If it succeeded, humanity would lose its only advantage. Use the planet killer, Jake ordered. Target the moon's core. The weapon struck the moon and burrowed deep into its interior before detonating. The gravitational field that formed was larger than any they had created before, consuming the entire moon and pulling it into a temporary black hole. When the field collapsed, the moon was gone. So were the research facility and 100 million Zephyrian civilians. The planet below was thrown into chaos as massive tidal waves swept across its surface. Without its moon, the planet's climate would change dramatically. Billions more would die over the coming years. My God, Ryan whispered. We just destroyed an entire world, but the crew's horror was mixed with grim satisfaction. Intelligence reports showed that the Zephyrian fleet was beginning to pull back from its staging areas. Fear of the Blackstar's weapons was spreading through their military. Over the following days, the Blackstar continued its campaign of destruction. Military bases, shipyards, and command centers were obliterated with planet killers. Each attack was a complete tactical success. Each attack also killed millions of Zephyrian civilians. The crew began to change. Some became hardened to the violence, celebrating each victory with increasing enthusiasm. Others grew quiet and withdrawn, troubled by what they were doing. Arguments broke out between crew members about the morality of their mission. Lieutenant Commander Hayes came to Jake's ready room one evening, his face haggard with exhaustion. "Captain, I need to talk to you about the crew," Ryan said. "We're losing people." "Casualties?" "No, sir. Mental casualties. The stress of what we're doing is breaking some of them down. 3 engineers have requested transfers. The medical staff is treating crew members for severe depression and anxiety." Jake wasn't surprised. He had been having trouble sleeping himself, haunted by images of the destroyed moon and the millions of lives they had ended. "There's something else," Ryan continued. "Some of the crew are starting to enjoy it. They're talking about the power we have, how we're unstoppable. Lieutenant Davis suggested we should just destroy the Zephyrian homeworld and end the war immediately." That troubled Jake more than the depression. Crew members who enjoyed the killing were potentially more dangerous than enemies. "Keep monitoring the situation," Jake ordered. "And Ryan, let me know if anyone else starts talking about destroying entire planets for fun." The next morning brought news that changed everything. Dr. Vasquez burst into Jake's ready room with a data pad in her hands. "Captain, we've intercepted Zephyrian communications. They're trying to open negotiations with Earth Command." Jake looked at the translated messages. The Zephyrian High Council was offering a ceasefire in exchange for an end to the Blackstar's attacks. They were willing to discuss terms for a peace treaty. "They want to surrender?" Jake asked. "Not surrender, negotiate. They're scared of our weapons, but they're not defeated yet." Dr. Vasquez sat down across from his desk. "Captain, this could be our chance to end the war without more killing." Jake studied the communications. After months of seeing Zephyrians as unstoppable monsters, it was strange to see them as beings capable of fear and desperation. "What does Admiral Collins say?" "Earth Command is divided. Some want to negotiate. Others want us to continue the attacks until the Zephyrians surrender unconditionally." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. "Jake, there's something else. Long-range sensors have detected a massive object approaching from outside our galaxy. It's bigger than anything we've ever seen, and it's heading directly for Zephyrian space." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Another enemy?" "We don't know. But if the Zephyrians are this scared of our weapons, imagine what could scare them, enough to make them want to negotiate with us." As Jake stared out at the stars, he realized that everything was about to change again. The war that had seemed so simple, humans versus aliens, good versus evil, was becoming something much more complex. And the weapons that had given them the power to destroy their enemies might not be enough to protect them from whatever was coming next. The bridge of the USS Blackstar was silent as they approached Zephyr Prime, the Zephyrian homeworld. Through the view screen, Jake could see a blue-green planet that looked surprisingly similar to Earth. It was hard to believe that this peaceful-looking world was home to the enemy that had killed billions of humans. Long-range sensors show the entire Zephyrian fleet defending the planet, Lisa reported. Over 200 ships in formation around their homeworld. Jake studied the tactical display. 200 ships was still a massive force, but after weeks of destroying Zephyrian installations with planet killers, he knew the Blackstar could handle them. The question wasn't whether they could win. The question was what victory would cost. "Captain," Dr. Vasquez said quietly, "Admiral Collins has confirmed our orders. We are to destroy the planet completely. No survivors." Jake nodded, though the order made him feel sick. Earth Command had decided that the only way to ensure humanity's safety was to eliminate the Zephyrian species entirely. Every man, woman, and child on the planet below was condemned to death. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Zephyrian fleet," the communications officer reported. "Put it on screen." The image that appeared showed a Zephyrian unlike any Jake had seen before. Instead of the military cybernetics of War Commander Thexakar, this being looked almost organic. His skin was pale gray, his eyes were large and dark, and he wore robes instead of armor. "I am High Counselor Vexthan of the Zephyrian Empire," the alien said in accented but clear English. "I speak for all my people when I offer you our complete surrender." Jake leaned forward in his chair. "Surrender?" "Yes. We know what your ship is capable of. We have seen the destruction you have brought to our worlds. We offer to withdraw from all human territories and pay reparations for the damage we have caused." Lisa looked at Jake with surprise. This wasn't what they had expected. The Zephyrians had always seemed like unstoppable conquerors. To see them offering surrender was shocking. "Why should we trust you?" Jake asked. High Counselor Vexthan's expression became sad. "Because we have no choice. Your weapons are beyond anything we can defend against. But more than that, we need your help." "Our help?" "The massive object your sensors have detected approaching our space. It belongs to an enemy far worse than we could ever be. They are called the Devourers, and they consume entire star systems. They destroyed our original homeworld 300 years ago. Everything we have done since then has been an attempt to find a new home before they found us again." Jake felt the blood drain from his face. "You're saying your invasion of human space was because you were running from something else?" "Yes. We needed resources and territory to build defenses against the Devourers. We knew it would mean war with your species, but we thought it was the only way to survive." Vexthan paused. "We were wrong. Your weapons could help us fight them. Together, our species might have a chance." The bridge erupted in angry voices. Several crew members shouted that it was a trick, that the Zephyrians were lying to save themselves. Others argued that it didn't matter why they had invaded human space. They had still killed billions of innocent people. "Quiet," Jake commanded, and the bridge fell silent. He stared at the Zephyrian leader, trying to decide if he was telling the truth. "You expect us to believe that everything you've done was because you were refugees? I expect you to believe that we are desperate beings who made terrible choices out of fear, just as you are making terrible choices now." Vexthan looked directly at Jake. "Captain Morrison, if you destroy our world, you will be committing the same crime we committed against your colonies. You will become what we became." Lisa stood up from her station. "Captain requests permission to speak privately." Jake nodded. "Transfer command to Lieutenant Rodriguez. Commander Park and I will be in the ready room." In the privacy of his ready room, Lisa paced back and forth while Jake sat at his desk. "It could be a trick," Lisa said. "A desperate attempt to save their planet. It could be. But what if it's true?" Jake pulled up the sensor readings of the approaching object. "Look at this thing, Lisa. It's 3 times the size of our largest space station. If the Zephyrians are telling the truth about the Devourers, we're going to need all the help we can get." "Jake, they killed your brother. They destroyed Preston's world. They executed millions of human prisoners." Lisa stopped pacing and looked at him. "How can you even consider showing them mercy?" "Because I've killed millions of their people too. We destroyed an entire moon with 100 million civilians on it. How are we any different from them now? Lisa was quiet for a long moment. We're different because we're trying to save our species. So were they. Dr. Vasquez entered the ready room without knocking, her face pale with shock. Captain, we've intercepted a transmission from the approaching object. It's not a ship, it's a machine, and it's trying to communicate with us. They returned to the bridge where a new image filled the main screen. The transmission showed a massive mechanical construct that looked like a giant spider made of metal and energy. Its voice was like the sound of grinding gears. Biological entities of this system. We are the devourers. You will be consumed. Resistance is futile. Surrender your worlds, and we will make your extinction swift. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. How long until that thing reaches our position? Jake asked. 6 hours, Ryan reported from engineering. And Captain, its energy readings are off the charts. That thing could probably destroy our entire fleet by itself. Jake looked at the tactical display showing the Zephyrian fleet still surrounding their homeworld. 200 ships that had been humanity's greatest enemy were now potential allies against something far worse. Open a channel to High Counselor Vexthon, Jake ordered. The Zephyrian leader appeared on screen again, but this time he looked relieved. You received the Devourer transmission, Vexthon said. Now you understand what we have been running from. If we work together, can we stop that thing? Possibly. Our ships cannot penetrate its armor, but your planet killer weapons might be powerful enough. Combined with our knowledge of Devourer tactics, we might have a chance. Jake made his decision. All Zephyrian ships, this is Captain Morrison of the USS Blackstar. Form up with us for a joint defense of this system. Sir, Lieutenant Davis protested from the weapons station. Our orders are to destroy the planet. Our orders were written before we knew about the Devourers, Jake replied firmly. The situation has changed. Lisa stood beside his chair. Captain, Earth Command isn't going to understand this decision. Then I'll explain it to them later. Right now we have a war to fight. The next 6 hours were spent in frantic preparation. Zephyrian engineers worked with the Blackstar's crew to modify their weapon systems. Dr. Vasquez shared technical data about the planet killers, while Zephyrian scientists provided information about Devourer weak points. When the massive construct finally arrived, it immediately began attacking both human and Zephyrian ships without distinction. Its weapons were unlike anything either species had encountered. Energy beams that seemed to eat through matter itself struck out at the defending fleets. All ships concentrate fire on the central hub, Jake ordered. The combined fleet opened fire on the Devourer construct. Zephyrian plasma beams and human quantum torpedoes struck its hull, but the attack seemed to have no effect. The construct's armor absorbed everything they threw at it. It's not working, Lisa reported. Conventional weapons aren't penetrating its defenses. Jake knew what he had to do. Prepare all remaining planet killers. Target the construct's core. Sir, using all 3 weapons at once could create a gravitational field large enough to consume both fleets, Dr. Vasquez warned. Then we better make sure we're far enough away. Jake opened communications to the entire fleet. All ships retreat to minimum safe distance. Prepare for massive gravitational shockwave. The planet killers launched simultaneously, streaking toward the Devourer, construct like 3 small suns. The construct seemed to recognize the threat and tried to move away, but it was too massive to change course quickly. All 3 weapons struck the construct's central core and detonated at the same instant. The gravitational field that formed was enormous, creating a black hole that consumed the entire construct in seconds. The shockwave that followed damaged several ships in both fleets, but when it was over, the Devourer was gone. Target destroyed, Lisa reported, her voice filled with amazement. Jake looked at the tactical display showing human and Zephyrian ships working together to rescue survivors from damaged vessels. A few hours ago, these same ships had been preparing to destroy each other. Now they were allies. Captain Morrison, High Counselor Vexthon appeared on screen again. On behalf of all Zephyrians, I thank you. You could have destroyed our world, but instead you chose to save it. We all have a lot to answer for, Jake replied. Both our species have done terrible things, but maybe we can do better in the future. The joint fleet began organizing relief efforts. Jake sat in his command chair and thought about the choices he had made. He had disobeyed direct orders from Earth Command. He had spared an enemy that had killed billions of humans. He had used humanity's most powerful weapons to save the very beings he was supposed to destroy.